Oded Hermoni, welcome to 20-Minute Leaders.
Thank you, Michael.
Thank you for the time. Thank you for being here. So we work together at J Ventures. It is so much fun, and I'm learning so much every single day. And I'm excited to be part of this amazing group that you started. But before we get to that, I want to learn a little bit about you and how you even got to this thing called J Angels and J Ventures. I want to go back to the time where you're a reporter and you're a journalist. What is it like? What do you cover? What are you excited about?
So first, Michael, we also learn from you, so it goes to both ways. I started my career after my army service. I was at the Israeli IDF spokesperson unit, and naturally after that I went for the media. I had a PR agency, and I just finished my service, and then I wanted to change Jerusalem, my Jerusalem, where I grew up. Many people in my generation left the city, and the only way to convince them that there's something in the city that is beyond the political issues and beyond religion is about economy. So I went to the local newspaper that had about 60,000 circulation and asked them to start an economy section. At the beginning, they were laughing because Jerusalem wasn't known for the economy, but then it made a lot of sense to everybody. So we created an economy section with another friend from my army service. I was 23 at the time. We had about 30% higher circulation because of that, and we kept a lot of people in Jerusalem. But after 3 years of writing and editing this section, which had 64 pages, 12 journalists in that time, by the way, the best journalist that I ever worked with, Said Kashua, that is very known in the US, Noah Yadlin, which is a famous book writer, I decided to move to Tel Aviv. The thing was, it didn't work. Jerusalem went into a deeper hole than I predicted, and I didn't want to be the last one to shut the light.
Yeah.
And with that, I moved to Tel Aviv and joined the Haaretz, which was a daily newspaper in Israel, to the economy section. And my natural thing, I always liked gadgets and things like that, so they asked me what I want to do, and I started writing about tech, and I did it for 6 years. I became the editor of the tech section, been with 99, 2000, all the roller coaster.
Wow.
I've seen thousands of companies, thousands of deals, many VCs. And my understanding very early on, because I had competition, was that it would be very hard for me to compete with people who are covering this industry for a long time.
Yeah.
So I thought, okay, who are the people that you don't need to know many people, but they know a lot of people. What's your gateways? And I thought that the VCs should be my gateways, because one VC knows 20, 30 companies that in his own portfolio, but he also sees trends around him.
Yeah.
So I started talking with the VCs, and I fast on later, I became the most powerful journalist in Israel because I knew everything.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to publish everything, by the way, because we got into the same situation that we're coming now, when there would be less fundraising and more layoffs. And I had three things that I always consistently kept. One is I never wrote about a deal that never happened. So I told the company, listen, I know you're going to be acquired, but if I will write about it, it will probably ruin your deal. Let's do it that way. Before you do the PR, when you finish, give me 1 day, 6 hours, give me the biggest story. I don't want to ruin for you, give me the story. The second thing was staying a person. So I never wrote about the company that is laying off before the company told the employees. I didn't think they should learn about it from the newspaper. And in that way, I found my wife, because
why do you care so much? I don't know. It sounds, I mean, from a bystander's perspective, journalists and reporters, sometimes rating comes above all and getting the scoop. Yeah, okay, so the company might not succeed because of this, or, yeah, people's feelings might get hurt, but, it's journalism, and if it gets readers' attention, then it's worthy. But you have a different idea and a different perspective.
First of all, I thought that nobody remembers the scoops. So another company laid off. You remember who wrote it? Nobody remembers who wrote it. So it's really insignificant if you will lose another scoop, but you will save people's feeling, and it's much more important. And the karma came back to me. My father-in-law was the CEO of a company that I knew him from my work, and he shut down his company. And I verified this with the board. I called him. I didn't know he would be my father-in-law at that time. He was a CEO of a company in Israel. And I called him and I told him, listen, all the other newspapers knows about any other things that I write 5 days later. I have five days ahead of me before they start to know what I'm writing. So I'm not going to write anything in the next 5 days, and then you will. But in 5 days I'm going to publish it. So you have 5 days to decide what you want to do with it, which was enough for him to do what he needed to do. And I did it with all the companies.
Wow.
3 months later, I'm with my girlfriend at the time that I just met. I didn't even know her last name. And she asked me, who's my father? I said, who's your father? And she said the name. I said, 1 second. And then she said, my wife grew up in the US. She didn't read Hebrew. She said, what did you write? And I said, oh no, 1 second. So the story is that, if you're a good person, at the end it will come back to you. If I would be just another journalist who doesn't care, then probably I wouldn't get this beautiful and amazing wife that I have. So I told this story to many of the journalists that replaced me after that.
Wow. I had no idea, Oded. This is beautiful.
Yeah, and it helps. It helps. So that was my values at the time. My publisher always said that I publish only 4% of what I know, and I found it interesting. But then in 2004, we created a new magazine called The Market, a printed magazine. I was in the strategic thinking of how to create a newspaper and to create it. But at the same time, I had a lot of offers to leave the newspaper to the VC world. And my publisher at that time and my editor, Guy Roney, convinced me to stay. And he said, you can change something that didn't change for 84 years. So I decided to do that. But I also told him, listen, you don't let me invest in stock exchange. I already have apartments. I want to have a startup. Second time in my career, someone who is my publisher or my editor is laughing. So he was laughing and then said, how can you create a startup when you are the editor of the high-tech section here in Red Herring, which was another newspaper that we covered.
Yeah.
And I said, you know what? That's the best way to learn. And he said, okay, in 2 conditions. You can have your startup without using your original name, the name that you were born with.
Yeah.
And without raising money from others, because then you're leveraging your position. So
Right.
if you're not leveraging your position, it's fine.
Right.
And so I changed my original plans and started with a childhood friend, a startup called Oded for You, which was
I thought you were about to say that I changed my original name, but okay.
Yeah, I called myself Ran Levin, which is our family. My 4 names is Oded, Ran, Hermoni, Levin. This is my formal name, but I usually use Oded Hermoni. And we started a startup that was like care.com for maids and babysitters and everything working with home. We did it in Israel, a bit UK. We didn't raise money. We put $1,500 each one of us. And we sold it after 18 months to Yellow Pages. Touch wood, we did the money. And the problem was, I was still in my position when we had the dialogue, and they didn't know anything about my day job. They didn't know this is Oded Hermoni that they read about. And I had to leave the
Were
news.
you a full-time journalist back then?
Yeah, I was full-time journalist. I was full-time editor of two sections, Captain Internet and the high-tech section of Haaretz and Marker. And I did it at nights. And it
Okay,
was
this is
profitable for the
crazy.
first month. And we sold it. And then I had to resign. After that, I decided to leave. And there were the first article about me, about the website and the startup was at the Marker. They wrote about finally people, and they called me after that. Was that you? Yeah. So and then I turned to be a VC. So that was my fast track into to become a startupist. It was very very fast. And my conclusion, by the way, that is relevant also for today's situation is I didn't come from the high tech. I was a journalist. I was covering the tech. But when I was thinking about moving to the tech, I felt I don't have the expertise. So what
Right.
coming with? And the concept of having a startup, I said, listen, if this is a successful startup, then I was a successful entrepreneur. If
Right.
it wouldn't work, I was experienced entrepreneur. In any case, I became a CEO. I became a VP, a biz dev of a company. I gained all the right lines on my resume and my experience in doing it without any paying for any school or I started automatically from the top. And I think this is always a good tip for anyone who thinks about how to start his career, looking at the glass ceiling, how far it will take and how long it will take. Sometimes you can do bypass. And the bypass, if you just take bold movement, and what I risked hours and I risked $1,500. That's what I risked. That's it.
Wow. Okay, so I'm gonna so you're in Rhodium, and I want to move now quickly to J Angels and J Ventures because we don't have much time, and I have to get to understand how your mind thinks around the community. So you're taking this notion of a venture capital firm, a fund, a proper fund that operates like a fund, but you're saying, hold on, this is not just about the money. It's not just about the companies who invest. It's also about our community as investors and about our relationship with each other and how we can help each other. So tell me, what is this fund that I'm also very lucky to be a part of, and how did you even come to create it?
So I'll just go back a bit. I've been since 2005. I've been doing VC investments
Yeah.
in Israel and US. I took a 2 years reserve duty to build the Israeli High Tech Industry Association, the IATI, and to take it from the Israeli Venture Capital Association into something broader. So my belief, and I worked with your father there, it was amazing, is how to create things that are beyond just. I believe very much in the ecosystem. I really believe in building things. I was one of the founding members of Icon, of Intro, and others because of the same logic. And in the past years, when I was a partner at Rhodium, that was a very successful private, single LP fund, I wanted to continue doing things that are not in the mainstream. So Rhodium had a very unique position because we invested a single LP in money.
Yep.
And we had the patience, and this is why we had good returns. In J Angels, my first philosophy was how to connect two communities who are very separate, the Israeli and the Jewish-born Americans in the US. I was very concerned about there's no connection between them,
Yeah.
and none of the other verticals wanted to do something about it. So I said, okay, as long as we bring people that are equal and very high level, we create something that have the same incentive. So if I would tell people, hey, let's build a community, they'll say, hey, Oded, I'm very, very busy. But if you tell them, you come and you meet the best people in Silicon, the best investors, the best people, the best CEOs, the best, and you will see the best deal flow in Silicon Valley, then they say, where do I sign in? Once they pass the door, they become a community. And this is what happened to us. So we became a community, and very early on, and we didn't take money. Jim Costland is my partner, amazing person, and he was on the board of Levi's, and other Launch Media and others, and he invested in Sequoia and Iconic and other funds. But when we talked about it, how we build this community, it's first of all, there's no patronizing. You don't want to waste your time with someone that you don't feel that is in the same level. You want to feel that you're in the room with people in the same level as you. So we were very picky about the people we brought in.
Yeah.
And then we start to see that we have very good deal flow. And early on in 2017, we created an investment committee. We had partners from Bessemer, Sequoia, Lightspeed, current or former investors. So we were very strong as an angel group. We had a screening committee with a lot of VCs in, a lot of C-levels, and a lot of serial founders. Those are the three parts that we have. Then in 2018, we decided to have a small fund because we just saw a very good deal flow and we already had exits. So people came to me and said, let's have a fund. And I said, guys, I don't want to manage money of others because I'm a full-time partner in a different fund. But I said, okay, if you want to do it, let's do something else. Let's do a kibbutz. Let's do a capitalist kibbutz. Everybody puts a small amount of money. Let's feel that we are all equal. So no one, we have billionaires in our group. They can't invest 10 million and someone invests 10,000. Everybody's in the same range. And what we wanted to check is first is this community where we had 84 LPs, if they share the deal flow, if they help the companies, if they are engaged. And after a year, we had 50% of our LPs engaged in screening, sourcing, or helping companies. And I'm talking, and you know the people there. It's really top of the line people. We have about.
That I have to say, I have to go back and say, you know, when you were a journalist, you told you gave those 5 days, and you said, I'm gonna put the people before the story and before the rating. And you know, I walk into a room, and you're right. There's billionaires there, and there's people that I know want to be more active because they believe in the fund so much that they want to put more in. And you're saying, no, we're community first, we're equal first. And you know, most VCs, you offer them money, especially when they're raising, they want the money, and it's different. And I think also that's what gets me excited. And I have to also share my experience coming into this arena, and we're sitting in a big room with about 80, 90 LPs sitting there. And you go one by one. I'm like, I know him from that article, and I know it, and he founded this company, and she wrote that book, and she's a partner in that firm. And it's such a humbling experience to see everybody so engaged for so much time. And it's really, really special.
Thanks. No, it's really what we try to achieve. So we also said no to people because we didn't feel that this is, you need to have your ego outside of the room. You need to be in a situation where where you don't fill the room with your ego. And those people are very successful, but they are humble enough to know that when they pass this door, they become a community.
Yeah.
The responsibilities for the community. As someone told me, one of our VC investors did 46 exits and sold the company for 1 billion. So he said, Oded, every time I'm there, I don't have the feeling, I don't have to fight with any partner. There's always someone who's asked a better question than I would ask, and I wanted to ask that question, and I don't feel that he stole it from me. I feel honored that he's smarter than I. And this
I love it.
One of them has.
It's unbelievable. And the fact that you have practically in every industry, you have experts, and it's because it's agnostic, and it's, every person that comes to present, and you just see the room, and that every person comes in with a different mindset. And when you put the puzzle together, it creates something really, really wonderful. Oded, before we go, I will
explain to you just the last part of J Ventures, because this is where we are now, and you will cut after and edit whatever you need.
I'm not editing anything. This is beautiful.
So J Ventures is the next step of what we decided to do. So we started to raise a bigger fund, but the concept remains the same. So people put a bit more money in the fund.
Yeah.
So this is more like the 20, 30, $40 million fund. It was easy for us to raise for 160 people in 5 months.
160 people.
But it's the individuals. We said no to VCs who wanted to invest. So we have different VC funds who asked the partnership to invest in us. But what is unique about it is that we said, okay, we are in Silicon Valley, but Silicon Valley is not a market. For most of the companies that we see, it's not a market. And when there will be a correction, and this was in November, December, when we started, before there will be a correction. And we said in correction days, you need to go outside of Silicon Valley. And the most insignificant thing for a company would be go to market, how fast they go to the market. So our philosophy was, okay, what's going on in New York? What's going on in Detroit? Detroit is automotive. And Dallas and Texas is energy. And LA is entertainment. You don't have any other center of entertainment, the movie industry. And Boston is cyber and medtech. And same is... So when you look at those communities, we have now the former CFO of Ford in Detroit. We have people from Wall Street in New York and advertising in New York. We have people from the movie industry in LA. Now, the next Netflix might come from Silicon Valley, but it might come from LA. So if it comes from Silicon Valley, we want to open the doors for them in LA. And if it comes in automotive in Silicon Valley, in Detroit, they forgot already what we didn't learn yet in Silicon Valley. So this hybrid of engaged communities from all over, we have in London, we have in Singapore, we have in Tel Aviv, of course, which is a very important part of our group. And what we see is that we don't invest only in Israelis or Jewish, we invest in everything. We're investing in just good entrepreneurs, regardless where they come from. Most of them are in Silicon Valley. We have a very big deal flow of Israeli expats that are in the US. But beyond that, we see just lots of amazing companies coming. We just invested in a company from Boston. We invested with Koshla Ventures. We invested in a company in LA. So the fact that we see deal flow coming from all those places, but more importantly, that people can help them to go to the market as fast as they can, and this makes the difference. The expertise of the go-to-market and the deal flow that comes from different places. We now open a new market for one of our companies from here in Argentina, because we have investors in Argentina. That's
yeah. No, Oded, I think, this idea of chapters and connecting the world and understanding that, it's 2020. It's not just about the market and the geographic location you're sitting in. And now that we're experiencing the Corona times and doing this virtually, to me, it's a very humbling experience and I'm learning a lot. I want 3 words that describe you.
I don't know. I'm curious because that's the basic thing of being journalist. I think I'm a visionary person, always been. And I'm a person of persons. I think those are the three words.
What was the third one?
I'm a person. I like
people person.
Yeah, I'm a people person.
Definitely are, and you have to say that first of all, mensch, and second, no bullshit. I think when I think of you, I think of you say it's not about being aggressive or impolite. It's about you know who you are, and you say what you think, and it's not about the big flashy presentation. It's about the real value that we are creating, and I think that's something that I'm really learning from this experience as well. Oded,
yeah.
Thank you very much.